Welcome to Queen Fair Magic. Today we have a super budget $5 deck tech that costs less than a crappy fast food burger. And everything is accounted for, including lands. So let's dive into it. The commander is going to be Audric, Lunarch Marshal. His ability is at the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn if a creature you control has first strike. The same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. Really the goal with this deck is to really just flood the board with a bunch of keywords that will not only buff your commander but also buff all of the other creatures that you have. So let's get into the creatures. Here are all of the creatures in the deck. They are really budget friendly. The most expensive is 23 cents. So they maybe aren't the most optimized, but they have at least 2 keywords per creature. There are a total of 32 creatures in the deck, which also includes the commander. So the total that it comes out to $2.08. If you kind of take a look at these creatures, you can see specific keywords that are shown really consistently. I wanted to make sure that I always had flying, vigilance, lifelink, and first strike under, multiple times within the deck. Just so that way you make sure that the most important keywords all of your creatures in your commander will have. It just kind of ups your chance to get those. We do have some more, but the other ones are the main ones to help us kind of stay well-rounded. Unfortunately, we don't have any indestructible creatures. I would have loved to include one or a couple, but with this being super budget friendly, it just couldn't be included. So we just wanted to make sure that it was staying within the price range. Here are all of the artifacts in the deck. We built a lot of equipment, which will, again, help us get more keywords. And we also kind of went with more keywords that we didn't really see with the main ones that I was showing with the creatures. So it gives things like death touch, reach, trample, haste. And a lot of times you want to be equipping those equipment on your commander, just so that way you have, those important keywords specifically on him. Also, with that being said, right, with equipment, the reason why I included these specific equipments is because when your creature dies, so let's say hypothetically our commander dies, the equipment or the artifacts don't go into the graveyard. So as long as an opponent doesn't do a destroy artifact spell, they're here to stay. Similar to artifacts, we have enchantments, specifically aura enchantments. They're just ways to help buff our commander with either, those important keywords or with +2/+2, just to make them a little bit stronger so that way you can start swinging in for commander damage faster. The instants that we put in this deck are just kind of ways to give you protection. And they're really, really budget friendly. I mean, I think the most expensive one was 10 cents. With this, right, there are 2 ways that we kind of give our commander and all of our creatures protection. First thing is I included instants that give, for example, my commander indestructible until end of turn. And as long as you're casting that before the combat phase, then Audric will be okay, I'm indestructible, so all of my creatures are also indestructible. If you feel like your opponents are starting to get a little bit scary, you can kind of cast these spells to really kind of make sure that you're protecting your board state. The other part of it that we have is really just kind of sometimes destruction spells. And sometimes it's actually a mix between giving your creatures indestructible or a destruction spell. For example, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. And just kind of making sure that whatever big threats that maybe your opponents are playing, you can kind of deal with that, even with your $5 budget deck. Last that we have, I didn't include any sorceries because usually sorceries are actually a little bit more expensive, unfortunately. So we didn't include any of those. So the last we have is lands. There are 40 lands. I always build all my commander decks with 40 lands just because I hate being mana screwed. It's just terrible. And especially in mono white, I think you want to make sure that you're having enough lands to just be able to play out creatures consistently. So that's it for our $5 budget deck tech. I counted up every single card, checked the Scryfall pricing, and came to exactly 5. So it's great for is it the most optimized deck? No, but it actually works pretty efficiently. So, you know, if you're like, hey, I've got $5, check out and get this commander deck. I think it's honestly really fun, and I think you would enjoy playing it, and it feels good for a $5 commander deck. If you liked this, like, comment, and subscribe. We really, really appreciate it, and I would love to hear kind of what you guys think of the deck, and maybe some changes that you might have made.